Yeah.
unfortunately, even though Don't Ask, Don't Tell, there were still people that were found out about and that were discharged, dishonorably discharged. Now, a lot of those folks, it's my understanding, and years after that, were able to have that discharge changed to honorable.
Darrell Berry, you are an author and a retired Army officer. You wrote a book called Early This Morning, and I want to talk to you about your book. First of all, because it kind of sets it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the conversation. Your book is a mystery novel about a, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and I'll let you talk about the book and tell us what it's about because it's a touchy subject here in the United States still after umpteen decades, and it's still a
Yeah.
hot topic. It's still debated, and let's talk about it. What's the book about?
Okay. Like you said, it is a mystery novel. Uh, and I have to say up front that it is totally fiction. And I have to say that because I was an Army officer and I did work in the field of intel for a period of time. And so I need to make it very clear that this is totally fiction, open source. I did not use any intelligence, intel information when writing it. Yes, it is about a small group of general officers uh, at the Pentagon. They're very homophobic, along with some congressmen. And this takes place during Don't Ask, Don't Tell period, which was 1994 through 2011. And what that means is before 1994, you could not be gay and be in the service. I mean, legally you couldn't. And then the Don't Ask, Don't Tell period came in, and what that meant was superiors couldn't ask an individual if they were gay, and the individual couldn't say, "Hey, I'm gay." So you just basically couldn't talk about it. Uh, so anyway, that's this takes place during that period of time, and a mission comes down. It's a very, very important mission, a dangerous mission, and so these guys get this idea that, hey, this is a very dangerous mission. Let's gather up a bunch of suspected homosexuals, gay men and women, spy on them, and then if we think they're gay, let's bring them together, train them up, and we'll send them on this mission. The mission deals with biological agents that are being produced in a country in quantities large enough to weaponize, or that's what they think
Right.
is going on. So they okay. So we send these folks over. Hopefully, they'll get us a lot of really good intel on what's going on over there, who's making them, what countries. And oh, by the way, if they all get sick and die from the biological agents, who cares? They're gay. It makes no difference. So they're going to kill two birds with one stone. So that's sort of the idea of the book. And so it takes us through the very beginning where they're spying on these folks, they're training them up. Everybody's a little bit nervous about, oh, what's going on? This it becomes pretty obvious pretty quick. Oh, I know that guy. I know this that they're gay. Sends them on the mission, and then I don't want to give away the end of the book, but
Yeah, yeah.
anyway.
Let's not
So
give away
that's
the end of the book.
that's what it that's what it's about.
So, just to kind of get this out in the open, you are gay and you
I
served
am.
in the military during Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
But yes, but I served before that Don't Ask Hotel and during Don't Ask Hotel.
Actually, so you actually enlisted back in the early 70s to avoid the draft. Is that correct?
Correct. That you're
That's
absolutely correct. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I respect that, man. I respect that deeply because you were probably like, man, this draft is going on, and if you get drafted, you don't always have a choice, but really not much choice of it at all what your MOS is or where you end up. And so you enlisted to kind of avoid that.
You are absolutely right. Absolutely right.
That's awesome, man. I certainly appreciate that, and thank you for your service, by the way.
You're
What was
welcome.
it? What was it like? being a young gay man in the military before Don't Ask, Don't Tell?
Back during my enlisted time for 3 years, you know, you just you, you just don't know anything different. So it was hard to kind of, I don't know, relate to anything else. And that was just the way it is. Nobody, people didn't talk. Um, you just, sort of did your work and that was it. Then when I got out after 3 years, finished college and came back as an officer, then that's where it came a little bit more dicey in a way because, I just kept my private life and my, a military life just absolutely separated. I will say one thing, kind of give you an example, and this happens in the beginning of the book, and this is something that happened all the time back then. And I'll just give you an example that happened to me. I would be in a bar, some town where I was stationed, because that's the only way you could meet other people at that period of time is going to a bar and just be sitting having a drink or talking to someone, and someone would come up to me, whether I knew them or not, and sort of nudge me and lean over and say, "They're here." That's it. They're here. Well, I knew what that meant. It meant they were either military police or somebody like that that were either in the bar or around the bar checking for who was in the military and in that gay bar. Well, I that's the way the book uh, sort of starts out, and so that's absolutely that happened all the time. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, even though Don't Ask, Don't Tell, there were still people that were found out about and that were discharged, dishonorably discharged. Now, a lot of those folks, it's my understanding, and years after that, were able to have that discharge changed to honorable. Um, but it
Oh
was
man, that's
crazy,
rough.
crazy time. Very weird, weird.
It sounds like it, and it sounds like to me, if I had to describe what Don't Ask, Don't Tell was, it was kind of, in my opinion, it was kind of like a compromise between not allowing gays in the military at all and what we have now. It's kind of
Exactly.
compromise in between the two. And so I never served in the military, and I'm straight. I never really, I never really thought about it. And I'll be honest with you, when Pete Hegseth became the Secretary of Defense and now the Secretary of War, the anti-woke part of the Republican Party right now, I didn't see any problems with gays being in the military. I don't see any problems that direction. But now the conversation is centered around transgenderism and mental illnesses and stuff like that. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about where the current Department of War is taking the military?
Into a very dark place. Very dark place. I, when people read my book, I want them to, I hope they do two things. I hope number one, they read it and think, wow, this is just a fun mystery book. But at the end, I hope they think to themselves, could this happen again? And it looks to me like it's the beginnings of that because everything you mentioned about Hegseth is certainly very true. But I mean, there's so much anti-female, uh, uh, black, anti-brown. It's very, very, very scary to me. And I mean, I don't want to be an alarmist, but gosh, you kind of wonder, could could this happen again? And yeah, I mean, with the transgender, that's just yeah.
Well, so I
But
actually have so my opinion on the transgenderism topic is kind of a nuanced one because I believe everybody should have the right to happiness and their freedoms and stuff like that. But in the military, it's like so the way I see transgenderism as a straight man is mental illness. And I'll be honest with you, and I don't want this conversation to be adversarial, so don't take it like I'm
no,
being an
no.
asshole here. But I look at it as kind of like if these young men and women don't know what their gender is, can we depend upon them to complete their job on the front lines? And that's kind of where I'm at because like I've never served, I'm straight, and so I can only look at things through my lens of purview. And for me, when I speak to other members of the military that are currently in, they are all for a transgender ban. And I couldn't help but think, I couldn't help but think like, what about the people that are already there, that are already serving? What happens to those folks? Now, when you were in the military, did you feel like people were coming after you or coming after your way of life during that time?
To some degree, let me back up a little bit because I may agree with you a little bit more than you think I would. First of all, on the transgender, I can't really speak to that because number one, it was when I was in the military, you never heard of that. That was an issue.
Right,
Number one, and number two, and I know you're not doing this, but I just want to make it very clear that I don't want to equate being gay with being transgender because
right,
that's a
right.
whole nother ball game. So I can't speak a lot to the transgender. I've got mixed feelings there because I don't understand it. Uh, I'm not
And
transgender
and that's
people.
the same with me. I'm right there with you because
Yeah,
I don't, like I said, I can only view things through my lens and my purview, and I don't understand how we go. Like, so I do understand the concept of cross dressing. For instance, like there used to be a bar here in where I live, and it was called the Shaft, and it was a very obvious gay bar, and they had drag shows there and stuff like that. I actually went to some of those drag shows. I had a great time. It was a good time, but none of those people were trying to convince me that they were
right,
something that they weren't. And
right.
that's where that issue lies with me with I could I could see cross dressers being in the military, just not on the clock, on the job. But when when they have that dysphoria, that gender dysphoria, that's I am male or I am female, and it doesn't match their biological sex, can you trust them to do their job on the front lines because you know that there's some kind of mental illness there? You can't just put your finger on it, but it's something that we don't understand and they can't explain to us.
Yeah, that's I mean, my gut feeling would say, yeah, they could probably do their job, but that's apart from whatever there is going on with them. I don't. The reason I say that is because you. I commanded a company when females were just coming in to the military. Oh, it was horrible. We can't have females in the company of males. They're just not able to do the work. Blah 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 blah. I commanded a unit that was 50% female. We were number one out of the gate over in Europe when we were doing that. So I've kind of seen it. So I don't know that transgender people can't do their job, but I worry about them for other reasons. Just,
Right, right.
I mean, there's people in the military that have mental issues
Yes, yes.
that are straight, but I mean, I see where you're coming from, and
And
I
I
mean,
think
I've
that's
got.
where I think that's where the Department of War is at right now. I think, to be quite honest with you, I think we're getting ready for a major conflict, and it's not obvious. The government's really not really talking about it, but we've got three fronts opened up right now, and we're going for a fourth. And
Oh, I think they want a conflict.
I think so too.
I don't get it, but I think they want one.
I think, I, man, it's hard to explain on my end of it because I'm not a strategist. I didn't go to school for any of this stuff. I'm not in intelligence. I didn't. I don't do a whole lot of research. I can just see patterns, man. And
Yeah.
I see right before major conflicts, we're kind of right there. And I don't think the world is as peaceful as the people in charge are telling us it is. I think from an American centric point of view, we don't get a lot of information. We get information that's important to the United States. That's pretty much it. And it's really kind of turned into like entertainment. You know, here I am talking on a podcast, right?
I know, Ricky, but oh, not to interrupt you.
Oh, go ahead.
What you're saying is very true, but the counter to that is that's because we're kind of lazy. Because if we want to find information, there's a way to read European
Right.
papers. There's a way to get translations from China and Japan and all that. So we, and I include myself, we need to be more proactive and because I've lived in other countries and you may have too, but when you're in other countries living there, you get a whole nother perspective of what's going on in the world,
Right.
except what's fed to us from our press
Right.
and so I kind of blame I kind of spanked myself along with others that we just need to do more work
Yes.
and look at the world through the eyes of other people by doing some research,
I
going out
absolutely
there.
agree with that. And that's exactly what I do. So I actually, so with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, I look at information coming out of Ukraine. I look at information coming out of
Good,
Russia,
good.
Europe, China, as much information as I can get out of China. Like there's obviously, there's not much information to have there, but
Yeah.
as much as I can get. And I really do think we're headed towards a major conflict. World War III type conflict. I was listening to somebody the other day and they were talking about some of China's aspirations. And there was a strategist in China that said something like that they needed to get the US at war in on 5 different fronts to have a chance of winning. And we're already on 4. And it's nutty to think about, but at the same time, you see what the Department of Defense just switched their name from Department of Defense to Department of War. And you think about precedents and you think about the stuff that happened right before World War One, right before World War Two, and we're right there. And I think the beginning, the history books will tell us that World War Three really kind of started out differently than World War One and World War Two in that it started with a bunch of proxy conflicts. And that's essentially we've got
Oh
three
yeah.
three proxy conflicts come right now that are active and a fourth coming with Venezuela. And it just when I connect these dots in my head, I really don't have anybody to talk to about this that isn't freaked out by the conversation and really.
Well, all they have to do is look at history
Yes, yes, exactly.
because
Exactly.
that's and also Rick, I think there's some more subtle things too that we don't look at a lot. But that is, let me just give you an example, throw something out there. Where do we get most of our medication from?
Yeah, China.
Thank you. All they would have to do is cut off the faucets there, and we'd be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, we saw
Now,
that during COVID, actually, during the COVID
yeah,
shutdowns. Um, Simple things such as those 3M masks that they were asking
yeah.
us to wear, they were all produced over in China. And um, at one point, I do think that China was saying, hey, if you don't stop talking about this, we're not sending the masks. I do think that actually happened. I'm not positive on that. So somebody fact check me here in the comments. But it just it's wild to me that we even got to that spot. And when I explained to other folks like my point of view on politics and stuff like that, my view of politics is kind of nuanced. I don't as far as like the Trump administration versus the Biden administration and all that stuff, it is it's two different sides of the same coin. So they're together. They may work together sometimes. They may work against each other other times, but they're on, they're together. when I explain to folks, like, I don't necessarily agree with the right on everything, but I do agree with the results that they're trying to get. That's where I am with the Department of War and the new regulations that they got coming up and all this, that, and the other thing. When Pete Hegseth came out and had, was talking to all the generals and everything, when I was watching that, I got a totally different view of it than the left did, because I agree with Pete Hegseth's stance on a lot of things. I think that the standards should be high. And I think over the years, to allow females in certain MOSs or recruitment measurements in these other areas, they lowered standards. They really did. And you can see it. This is all public information. If you go and look at these regulations, they did lower them, and they lowered the standards. And I kind of agree with raising the standards back up, but I don't agree with, kicking females out of the military, because there's a lot of things, including shooting, that women are proven to be better at than men.
Can
So
I can I
go
ask you a
ahead.
couple of things about that?
Go ahead.
That I disagree. Well, I don't disagree with you necessarily, but well, if you notice during his speech, I think that one to the generals and other speeches that he's done, this is very important to me. He says we need to have the male standards, and the females need to, uh, come up to the male standards. I totally disagree with that. What I do agree with is we need to have standards,
Yes, yes. So how
standards that
how I
male or
actually took
female.
that,
But
how
he
I
says
actually
he'll
go
say
ahead.
male. He says male standards, and it shouldn't
Yes,
be that. It should be standards. Because if you got a female or it's this high and a male that's that fine, as long as you have standards. But don't
right.
say have male standards. Number one, and number two, if they got rid of all the combat arms, females in the Air Force that are flying fighters, we would have a deployment problem.
Yes, we would. Absolutely.
I just had to fill
So
that in.
oh, you're fine, man. That's actually what we're here for. This is an open and honest conversation between two fellas, man. It is what it is. Occasionally, like we because of the distance, we're spread out. I'm in Missouri, you're in Texas, and because of the distance, we'll tend to step on each other sometimes with the air. But I think what I got from Hegseth, I actually took it a little bit differently. So yes, he did use male and female words. I think what he actually said was make the standards to the highest, you must set the standards at the highest male standard, which I took to mean as you take the group of men, and the highest standards that the men can get is what you set the regulation. But the bar to meet that must it must be equal. How do you say, like, both sexes? It must be able
Yeah,
to be obtained by both sexes.
both sexes. Yeah.
And so I got to give it to you. Pete Hegseth probably isn't the smartest guy in the room, the smartest guy in the
You
world.
think?
And so I think maybe some of these things that he says, you kind of have to parse out what he means versus what he says. And I know that
Which we
sucks.
should never have to do when we're listening to our
Exactly.
leaders.
You're exactly right. That's kind of where I was going with that is maybe if he would, or somebody would come out and say, well, what do you really mean when you say this? Do you really mean this, or do you mean it exactly how you said it? Because, like, how you said it could be taken two or three different ways here.
That's a really good point, Ricky. And also something else along those lines, just exactly what you're saying, because he was he was making comments about fat soldiers and which I don't see, and fat generals and whatnot. But I knew when I was in the military, I knew people that were on the military scale, they were actually overweight, but they could run circles around. I mean, they were big guys,
Yeah.
but they could tote. I mean, so he needs to explain himself more on that because that's. But take it from an old Army officer that was in Intel, Hegseth. and giving away secrets and doing that stuff that he was doing on open source. I mean, we don't have a lot of us have no don't have a whole lot of give there.
Yeah, if it was you, you would have gotten fired.
Oh my! Not only gotten fired, been brought up
Charged
on
criminally.
charges. Oh
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Yeah, I can't believe I can't believe that hasn't I can. I can. Let's be honest. I can believe it. Yeah, just to see going back to the don't ask, don't tell thing, I really it's hard to believe in 2025 that there was even a policy like that, and looking backwards on it, it was like, don't ask, don't tell. It seems so obvious that, like most people, most gay men in the military, most gay women probably didn't run around advertising it all the time. And
that's
so
true. That's
that's where
true.
it doesn't make sense. Don't ask, don't tell. Like is seen as a compromise. However, it still ostracized so many people. And
It did. And can I give you another example on that?
yeah,
Don't
go
ask, don't
ahead.
tell. Let's say we've got Lieutenant Jones, straight guy, married, kids. Some tragedy happens to him. God forbid, his wife got killed or whatever. So Lieutenant Jones goes into work, and oh my gosh, and rightfully so. He's given a lot of sympathy. He's given time off. He's given, and which he should. He should. Then you've got Lieutenant Adams, who's gay, has a partner. His partner is very ill and got killed.
Yeah.
You can't even mention it. So you got two guys, tragedies in their family. One just has to zip it up and act like nothing's going on, and the other
Wow.
is, can act, normal,
Which is dangerous. It's
which is
dangerous.
dangerous, is right, and that's what was going on during Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's for me, like I would quit, but I don't know how to reconcile that. Because whether you agree with the policies or not, there's sometimes unintended consequences to policies that we do like. And it's in one thing that's really weird is in 2025, we can't talk about those things, without screaming at each other, calling each other names. And like you and I probably agree on a lot, but we probably disagree on a lot too. And the fact that we can sit here and have this open and honest conversation with one another is proof positive that other people can do it too.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's really why I wanted to have this conversation in particular, and why I do the podcast is because, like, man, we don't talk to each other,
That's
and
right.
we can disagree and come up with compromise, like don't ask, don't tell. um we can do these things without hatefulness, without
Right.
bitterness, and we're
I
all
agree.
just people. And it drives me nuts that a lot of times, like, we can't talk about things without fighting. And I'm over it, man. I'm way over it. Charlie Kirk, uh it, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, man, my whole worldview just kind of blew apart, because directly after, I spent a lot of time on social media for a few hours, and both sides were disgusting. Both sides were disgusting.
They were. I agree. I absolutely agree. Yes, that was a sad statement about our how our society reacted to a tragedy. I
Exactly.
mean, I didn't. It was just absolutely horrible. I mean, it was a terrific thing that happened. A, a lot. I mean, Charlie and I disagreed on nearly everything, but heck, I mean, now and you know what? One thing too that I admired him about is that he would go out there and talk.
Yes.
One-on-one debates. He wasn't afraid of being out there. Uh, and I mean, I agree with him on some things too, but I mean, a lot of things I didn't. But yeah, I thought that was just embarrassing on both sides of the coin when that tragedy happened.
And then you got a sitting US president coming out and doing what he did when he announced it. How do you, man, I voted for Trump, and then I was just like, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that a world leader would come out, and it's like it did to me. It was like he was in trying to incite violence, but that's just my opinion, you know. I, it just it's the craziest world we live in, and going back to like, so the immigration thing, I can tie the immigration thing to like a World War III type scenario. Like, do you remember like doing research and stuff in school? And I'm sure you did research while you were enlisted about the internment camps, Japanese internment camps back in World War II. I think something similar is happening right now. I really do. I don't think that the immigrants themselves are a problem. I think safety is an issue. I think I was listening to a former CIA profiler, and they were saying that the during the Biden administration, like 1,500 um, terrorists were came through the southern border and were lost. They lost them from there. So I believe something similar. Like, I don't think the immigrants are the actual problem. I think they're trying to, like, gather everybody up like they did way back then, just not tell us about it. Because again, I think we're going through something that our leaders aren't talking about. I don't think they're telling us everything.
I think that's a very good point. And of course, that was a horrible, horrible thing that happened to the Japanese, especially out in California. But there was a lot more than Japanese. There were German internment camps for German civilians here in Texas, as well as Italians. So it wasn't just, I mean, and what I'm trying to say, it was more widespread than the horrible thing about the Japanese.
Right.
It happened everywhere else. And yeah, I agree. You could probably tell I'm sort of center left, but sometimes I veer right, and
Right.
I'm a big believer in secure borders done the correct way.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
here
That
in
that's the
Texas, it
that's the
being
key word there. They done the right way.
done the
I
right
I
way. Yeah, yeah.
I think the shutting down of the border was done right. I think there's a lot of room for work on the other stuff. I don't. Um, Again, I voted for Donald Trump, and I was talking about ICE and stuff like that. I've so doing the history and the research and stuff about World War II. You know that one of the one of the tactics that the Nazi Germans used to get their population to snitch on each other.
Oh, yes.
And I'm seeing that, and I'm like, I'm not helping you do your job. I can set aside enough bandwidth to that I can deal with them doing their job. I'm not going to help them do it.
But that's happening now.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
that is happening now. Point to your neighbor that you think is whatever.
Isn't it gross? Isn't it
Yeah.
gross? Like, I mean, thinking about, like, so I'm only 40, but I had, when I was in the eighth grade, I became not necessarily obsessed in a healthy way with World War II and history, and seeing that stuff. It just, like, I don't have to help you do your job. I can acknowledge that you have a job to do, but I don't have to help you do it, and I'm not going to. I have friends who are affected by this. I have family members who are affected by this. It's not it's not cut and dry. Like, there's a lot of feelings there, and then when I see advertisements, if you see this or see that, call ICE and here's the number. And I'm like, that's exactly what the Nazis did in Germany.
You're right. You are so right. You're right. And it's a very emotional thing for me here, especially in Texas, because I've known Mexican families that have been here for years. Yeah, I mean, well, they've been here for years. They work, they go across the border, back and forth. That's the way it's been done for centuries. Who now don't want to go to a restaurant, don't want to leave their
Yeah.
house because I mean, it's just sad.
Yeah. It is. It
Hard-working
is.
people that pay taxes too, by the way.
That's right. That's right. I've actually got some friends that are they haven't left. They're very private people anyway, but they haven't left their house like like to go in other than to go to church and events like that. But they don't really go out and hang
Yeah,
out, and they haven't for a long time. And it's not because they're afraid of you and I. Um,
right.
they're afraid uh, they're afraid of ICE, and they're afraid of the detention centers, and the I don't even think they're afraid of being sent back to wherever they came from. I think it's more the treatment that happens to them before the the deportation happens.
Yeah, yeah. And Charlie, let me ask you something because Charlie, what am I talking about? I'm sorry, slip of the tongue there, Ricky. Let me ask you something because you know a lot about history and whatnot. It seems to me, just kind of moving way, way, way back, if Congress had done their jobs many years ago, not last year, many years ago, if Congress had done their job about the border, about policy, security on the border many years ago through many administrations, we wouldn't have this problem
I
today.
agree. I agree. And I've actually talked about that on the podcast multiple times on how if they just enforce the laws and the rules as they're written, we'd be fine. We would be fine. And I think that's ultimately what the current administration is coming up against. If you know anything about Donald Trump, you know he's not a Republican. And if you look at his policies, he is kind of on the Democratic side. I think what has happened is people are in there now at the very top. Donald Trump's one of them that understand and see the kind of shit that has happened to this country over the last 40 years and are like, no more, we can't, because the best deterrence is to make sure that you can win. And in my opinion, that is a hell of a deterrence. That's what kept us safe for many, many, many years.
Yes.
I think that it's definitely not going to be easy to fix it, and I think that's where we're at right now. I think the administration that we have currently is willing to be the bad guys to get us where we need to go. And if it comes with a ton of hate, it comes with a ton of hate. And ultimately that's why I voted the way I did. It's not because I believe in all the negative things. I just believe it's not going to be easy. And I believe these people are at least trying something, because before we lose this great country of ours, something's got to be done.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I run into with the military. I understand part of it, but then like, why do you got to be so damn mean about it? That's another thing. Like, why do you have to say the things like fat generals and, like, nobody wants to hear that. And I understand that there's some folks that have come out of rigs, but like you said, I know people like, so I'm a big fella myself, 6 foot tall, 280 pounds. And at 40 years old, I can outwork people half my age.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
I can't run as fast, but as far as like endurance goes, I mean, I could be at work 12, 13, 14 hours and not even break a sweat. And I think that we have a huge leadership problem in the United States military. I think that I think that for a very long time there were just no leaders to be had, and we kept putting up folks that didn't deserve it and holding down the folks that did. Did you see a
And,
lot of that in your time?
well, and also something kind of spurred me on when you were talking about, about being able to. you're a large guy, but you're able to run circles around other people. The thing of it is nowadays, Ricky, in the military, because we're not humping bazookas like they were in World War II.
Yes.
Nowadays in the military, I was asking somebody this the other day that was in the military, what in your career and in my career, what I don't remember a time that I had to lift 100 pounds. Now, sure, I mean, you have to be healthy. You have to be able to walk and move, and move out and do stuff. I didn't have to lift even when I was enlisted. Yeah, some things, but I mean, this sort of is blown all out of proportion. Well, you got to be able
Yes.
to do this. You got to be. No, you don't.
Yes,
You
and
know,
like most MOSs are a
like most,
support
yeah.
anyway. It's mostly support, and I'm my kid, my 16-year-old. He turned 16 today.
Oh,
He has aspirations to go into the military, but he's a large kid. He would have difficulties passing the regulations if he was skinny. So he has aspirations to go into the military, and I just tell him like, I really wouldn't want you as a father to go after a combat role, but I would really love it if you did join the military as like a support person. I have my CDL. I can drive a truck. There's lots of jobs out there like that. There's cooks. Some of the best cooks, some of the best chefs in the world came from the Navy. So it's there's lots of support MOSs out there, and I think that's like when you're going through a rough spot trying to get jobs for regular people, like if you've got a 250-pound fat man cooking up some lunch on the deck, like at least you're being fed good.
can I get real liberal on you here just for a second?
Go ahead.
This is going to sound crazy. I firmly believe that people with certain disabilities should be able to join the military.
Me too. I have autism.
But there's no reason why you shouldn't join the military. And there's
That's
certain
right.
physical problems that now, I mean, obviously, some disabilities, no, but if someone wants to serve their country, maybe they're not deployable, but they could. There's a lot of jobs where you don't have to be able to walk a mile, and people want to serve, they should be allowed to serve.
I absolutely agree. And you just find a place for them.
Yeah,
So I actually, the CIA openly recruits people with ADHD. Like it's not
I can
something
understand that.
right. It's not something they advertise, but if you've got ADHD, so if you're recruited by the CIA and you have ADHD, it's pretty blatantly obvious to you why they picked you because you have anxiety, you have ADHD. Some of us like autism is another a great thing to have if you're wanting to go into the I say that as that sounds so insensitive, but it's
No, it
true.
does. No,
It's
I,
true.
I
They openly recruit people with ADHD and autism, and having autism myself, my kid, my youngest, he's 6 and he has level 2 autism, so his is a little worse than I am. But they openly recruit folks like us because we think differently.
yeah, and it makes sense. I worked with when I was doing my Intel thing. I had the opportunity to work with the folks from the CIA, and I mean it takes all kinds to float that boat over there. But I tell you
Yes.
what, they generally, I mean, they do a good job.
Yes, they do.
Those
Yes, they
folks
do.
do a great job.
So
I
good
mean,
of a job that you only hear about their failures.
you're exactly right. You are exactly right. Yep.
If you go a year or two without hearing anything about CIA or anything like that, just rest assured that they're doing their jobs, and
Oh,
that's
they
where the
are.
if you hear nothing about CIA, that just means they didn't get caught doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true though.
And
Absolutely.
I love that aspect about our country. I do. I the Cold War era of our country is fascinating. It is really fascinating. So I don't know if you can see behind me, but I've got an alien over there. I'm
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm a big UFO buff, and a lot of UFO stuff took off after 1947, I believe it was,
Yes,
Roswell.
yes, it did. Uh-huh.
And for me, looking at all these different things that are possible or not possible, it's fascinating to me. And when you look at the era between 1945, specifically 1945, and 1991, 1992, it is the most fascinating era of history. And that's where the CIA and the FBI, and that's where they got uh, that feel to them, that secrecy and all this stuff. Now, I do think that they got a little too big for their britches. I do think that the goal to get them back under the executive branch is a good idea, because I think that there has been some meddling in the United States politics from CIA, FBI, and I believe it became a problem somewhere in the mid 2000s.
That could always, with the secret server, with something secret like that, that's an inherent danger anyway
You're
of
right.
something like that happen. With the NSA, all those, however many there are, I don't remember off the top of my head. But that's always a problem because you're dealing in covert activity anyway. So
Right.
things could go awry,
Right.
if not
Right. And
controlled.
it is so fascinating to me
It
that
is.
that's and like with with the JFK stuff, I mean, that stuff is fascinating to jump into, even if you don't believe any of it, which I believe the government's explanation for what happened is actually really pretty close to the truth. So
I've read
I
a lot about that too. Yeah, yeah. I find it I love to read that.
it's so fascinating, like um how we get caught up into those stories, right? For me, it was very eye-opening to see a lot of the stuff that came out about JFK recently, about that case, and how it ties into like Watergate and Nixon and all that stuff. It's like it's fascinating, and I love diving in. Even if I don't believe them, it's still like a good entertainment for me, right?
It is. Yeah,
And you can't do shit about it now. I mean, this happened back in the 60s. So I mean, it's entertainment at its best, I think. But here's where I come up with a problem, is because as entertaining as it is, there's some people out there that'll believe the craziest shit about JFK and the whole thing. So maybe the CIA was involved, but I don't think they were quite involved like everybody thinks they were. And I actually think the government's explanation of what happened is pretty close to the truth.
I think so
And
too.
I think that there was intelligence failures, and that's why we know about it.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree.
Ultimately,
Absolutely.
so with your book, the name of the book is Early This Morning. And how long is the book approximately? How many pages?
Oh, it's it's a short book. It's a like a long airplane. It's 157 pages.
I love the cover of it, by the way. It's so
Uh,
I love that.
it's
The colors mixed together, and just I mean, you already know what the book's about as you're looking at the cover, and
kind of, yeah.
it adds
Atmosphere Press did a very, very good job of publishing that. They really
that
did.
how long did it take you to write it?
Well, it's kind of a, I wrote it. I wrote a book early this morning, many years ago, self-published, went through all that whole process, learned a lot about self, then put it up on the shelf. And then I was encouraged to have it published. And so I found Atmosphere Press. They accepted it, and then they published it. But to answer your question, because it was kind of off and on and off and on that I was writing it. Once I decided, I just need to sit down and do this. 3 months,
Wow.
But that was solid writing. But I had already had it pretty well established the storyline. Actually, now I'm writing a screenplay. I'm making the book into a screenplay, which I said I could never do. I'm not capable of doing this. Somebody else needs to do it. And I don't know what happened, just doing research and being old, I guess. I decided, I think I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm in the middle
Hell
of
yeah.
doing trying to write a screenplay.
Hell yeah. That reminds me of so one of my favorite shows is The Handmaid's Tale. Have you
Uh-huh.
ever seen that?
I read
It's
the book years ago.
I did not. I did not. Now, actually, I mean that it's a fascinating tie into our current conversation here. I think that we're kind of on the cusp of having something sort of like Gilead, but I hopefully that there's enough of us to stand up and say no, not here. But it kind of talking about this, it kind of gave me Handmaid's Tale vibes. Is that kind of along the same lines of the mystery there, or
Never thought about that. I don't know. I mean, hmm. I'll have to think about that one for a minute.
that's
Handmaid's Tale is not the first thing that popped into my mind when I was, but
well,
maybe some.
like because so when you're talking about like positions of authority and authoritarianism and stuff like that, the don't ask, don't tell policy had authoritarian leanings to it, and being that it was a compromise between what we have now and what we came from, it's kind of like The Handmaid's Tale in reverse.
Oh, I see. Oh, I get you. I get you. Okay, yeah, yeah. Could be because it was an anomaly that was so strange. I think this is just me. I think what happened is when they did it, I think they just couldn't, the government just couldn't go from gays are not allowed in the military to gays are allowed in the military. That was a step way too far.
Right.
So they did this stopgap measure, which was horrendous, but at least maybe it got us to finally, where we ended up.
I think people realized how stupid like
I
how
think
stupid of the
so.
conversation it is. Like you're not, all right, listen. So I think one of the big, like, homophobia is the biggest reason why there was these policies in the first place.
Yeah.
But one of the justifications was that you were going to have like everybody worried about sex and this, that, and I'm like, from the stories that I've heard, everybody's out there fucking each other anyway. So it's one of those things, like, it's going to happen. You can't stop it. You can't, like, we need good men and women to join our military and want to be there. That's the very key, that it's very, very important that they want to be there, that they volunteer their services. That's what makes us unique. It makes our military unique from everywhere around the world because we are a 100% volunteer force.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I agree. 100%. Yeah.
I hate to see people ostracized. I hate to see people not feel safe in the
Uh-huh.
military. How do you go to one of, like, let's just say a big, well um well armored base. Like, how do you walk onto that base as a gay person and not feel safe?
You know what? I've been asked things like that before. I've thought about it because when I was coming up in the military, you just didn't have anything. You just didn't know any different.
Right.
I mean, because it was never it's okay to be gay. So it wasn't like you were going back into. I don't know how to explain it because you just did not know anything different. So you just sort of roll with the punches. And people that are gay in the military had been rolling with the punches in civilian life anyway. And so it wasn't that big of a deal. Just keep your mouth shut, do your job, You're obviously there because you want to serve your country. So,
I think that's where a lot of the issues come up to now is identity politics. People have made their politics their entire identity. You can't go to the grocery store without telling us who you voted for. Come on now. It's gotten ridiculous, quite ridiculous. We've made these little nuances about coffee with bearded bad dad is a great example. I've made the beard my identity, and everybody's done that about everything. And I think it's created problems in the military when folks, maybe the trans folks or the gay folks or the straight folks, when they make their identity about those things, they show it more on the outside. They talk about it more. They There's no sense in, like, we don't need to know who you
right,
slept with, or we
right,
don't need to know the minute details of your bedroom life. Like that stuff's private, and it's private for us. It should be private for you. And like
right.
so that's where the don't ask, don't tell makes sense. But it's just, it didn't, like you said, it's a stopgap. It may have been a shitty one, but it got us there eventually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Um, so Darrell, I don't want to. Uh, I just run out of things to really kind of ask about the book, because like I really want to get the book. I didn't get a chance to grab it before we did the interview, and so I did very little research on it. I wanted this conversation to carry itself and to be a standalone podcast, but
I like that though. I
me
like that
too.
when I'm interviewed by somebody that knows of the book but really hasn't read it. I like that
So we can
because we kind of
introduce.
both learn together.
Right. We introduce the audience to you as a person, and as an author, and they can go out and get the book. It's called Early This Morning. When did you release Early This Morning?
It was Atmosphere Press released it in May, and in May of this year, just a few months ago, and it's only sold on Amazon. I don't. It's not
Okay.
in the bookstores. That's a hassle to put it in bookstores. So uh, you could
So
get it. You could get it on Amazon like you get everything else on Amazon.
right, right. I mean, like I'm very surprised by the shit that you can get on Amazon nowadays. Like I have just started growing my own cannabis, and I get like half of my stuff that I use for growing from Amazon, and I'm like, coming from a world like Don't Ask, Don't Tell ended in 2011. Um, I've been a pot smoker most of my life, and it just now became legal here in Missouri, and now I'm able to grow it and stuff. It's very weird to me to be able to buy this stuff on Amazon, and so you can actually, you understand how I feel, because it's, crossing over between not
Right.
being able to say anything, or being able to, crossing over from having your identity to then not being able to say anything about it at all. To what year did you retire?
97.
So you were out before they repealed that.
Uh-huh.
Ah, man. So it must have been wild for you to see. Well, I wish they had that when I was in there. Man, this has been a
Kind of,
great
but
conversation.
I think, when I think about time in the military, the gay part, I mean, yeah, I wrote a book, but the gay part is just, when I think about time in the military, I think of the jobs, the people I work with. I mean, it's just, everything is so much more, it's like this, and then being the gay part is like this
Right, right.
to
And
me.
so like what I was saying earlier is people have made it from this to this, and
Right.
it's it's wild. It is wild to see that transition. Like I hate identity politics. I
Yeah.
hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And
Yeah.
the biggest reason why is because it creates animosity.
Yeah.
It creates arguments, and people, they they cannot take what I say as just a statement. They have to take it as a personal attack because if my beliefs aren't their beliefs, it is very personal to them and it's their identity and I'm attacking them and this, that, and the I'm like, no, no, I'm just trying to give you a different viewpoint. I'm trying to explain things from my point of view. And then what you have is people who then the loudest folks then get to people like me who I don't care that much to have an argument with a stranger about it. So we end up in this spot where we don't talk at all. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. Even if you and I were at loggerheads today and we didn't agree about anything, I would still attempt to be like, Darrell, I want this interview to go well. I want you to be able to speak your mind and speak your opinion and be you, but I ask you to let me be me too. And
Absolutely.
that I think we've gotten so far away from that that people just feel like they're being attacked when other people say things to them and it has nothing to do with them.
And you see it all the time on on TV. We have a phenomenon here. It's maybe not just here in Texas, because it's a big state. We've got a lot of little towns, and of course, I'm sure it's true all over the United States. But you go into any little town, there's going to be a group of old guys in a coffee in a little restaurant with their table discussing everything from politics on. That's kind of good though.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Face to
miss that.
face, face to face.
I miss that. And like I'm one of those. So I'm not quite old yet, but I am.
No, you're not old at all.
I don't work a conventional job, so it's not 9 to 5 for me. I'm so I'm actually in a transition between stay at home dad to homemaker now. So I was a stay at home dad for over a decade, and both my younger kids are in school now. My oldest is 22 and my youngest is 6. So, and now I've got grandkids. I've been out of the workforce for so long that I don't want to go back. I can't, I don't think that I could tie myself to an 8 hour a day job, mostly because I can make more money in half the time away from a conventional job.
Yeah.
So I, uh, I spent a lot of time being a stay-at-home dad and I loved it. I absolutely loved every bit of it. But now with my youngest being in school full time, it's like I have 7 hours during the middle of the day that I don't have anything going on. There's nobody around. So that's when I do this stuff. And
Oh,
and
that's
this
great.
is really it started as a passion project, like something that I thought that I could get into as a hobby. But now it's like I love it and it is a hobby, it's a job, it's combined. It's the greatest thing that I
Wonderful.
have going for me professionally. And the biggest reason why I love it is the conversations like this, Darrell. It's amazing that we can come from two different places in our lives. We have two different lifestyles. I smoke pot all day, every day, and you're a retired army officer, and we just we can come together like this and have great conversations and
Hmm.
be honest with each other. And I think you've said today that like there's some things that you did agree with me on, there's some things that you disagree, and that's okay. It's perfectly
Hmm.
fine. And the
Oh
fact that we
yeah.
can we can get together and like I have plans. I'm gonna invite you back on after a while and we can have this conversation again after, because the book just came out in May. It'd be kind of cool to see what it's done after the first of the year and everything. And
Or see
how
if
it
I've got a
does.
screenplay written.
Absolutely. That would be so awesome too. And I will get the book, and by the next time we talk, I will have read the book and I can give you my thoughts and opinions on it and stuff. And
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love to
that
hear
would
your thoughts and opinions.
it would be awesome. And so Darrell, let me leave you with this. I appreciate that you wrote this book. And I'm actually appreciative that you bypassed the Dopser process by making it fiction as well. So, for those of you that don't know, the Dopser process is it's a pre-publication review that you have to go through with the Pentagon if you have sensitive information or you talk about true events in your books. And Darrell bypassed that by giving us a work of fiction that talks about true things.
Exactly.
I can
Exactly.
certainly appreciate that because the DOPSR review process takes years sometimes. So, but again, the name of the book is called Early This Morning. You guys can catch it on Amazon, and the name of the book, Early This Morning. The author, Darrell Berry. Is there anything you want people to know about the book?
I think like I mentioned early on, just number one, I just hope you just enjoy it as a neat mystery novel. But number two, when you get to the end of it, would like for people to think, I wonder if something like this could ever happen again.
I
Those are
I,
two
I
two
think so.
basic things about the book, and then there's just one brief thing, if I could mention, it doesn't have anything to do with the book, but has something to do with what we've been talking about, and that is
Absolutely.
when we're talking with people, especially that don't necessarily agree on politics or whatever. I think if we can always keep in my mind, but what can I learn from that person?
Yes. Yes, that's a good one. That's a really good one because no matter who the hell you're talking to, you can always learn a little bit of something, even if you're learning something about yourself.
Right, right.
Awesome. Well, Darrell, this has been a great conversation, and
Oh, I've
hang
loved it.
out with me for just a moment, and we'll let these folks go. Hey, everybody, like I said, go on Amazon, grab this book. I'm going to, and you can read all about it and leave a review on Amazon for Darrell. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.